Hey Dragon Dreamers, Gina Virginia Casella here. Welcome to Story Species Story Medicine. When we share our stories, we give and receive medicine. One of the best ways to heal is with the earth, and that's exactly what we do with each other right here on Story Species Story Medicine. Ready to take your medicine? You hear me? Were you able to hear me um, before? We can't hear you. Can you hear me now? Oh man, that was good information I had. Can you hear? Can you hear me now? And I'm just going to check here on my cell phone. I had trouble signing in. Okay, let's have a look here. Okay, you can hear me. Okay, good, because there's a little bit of a delay on my phone here. Okay, good timing. Tony, I'm glad you're here with me live. All right, so I always have lots to say, and I'm excited because 2025 is closing, it's coming to an end. And for a lot of folks out there, myself included, 2025 is already over. My mind this year, it's kind of like a blur. So I'm coming up with some new projects for 2026. And those of you who are following me, buy me a coffee, you'll notice that I announced somewhere and in my Facebook group that the schedule is going to change. So I've been doing story species, story medicine on Mondays, the dream alchemy thing on Fridays. That's all going to change. And so for the rest of 2025, any volunteer services that I'm providing, the schedule is going to be wonky. Those who are on story species, story medicine, I've got Michael Cupp and Tilly Treadwell coming on, and those we're still going to pursue. So just keep following me. So uh, today I want to talk to you about people meat. So yeah, people meat. Wow, historically people were on the menu, right? And I remember when I was in high school and even when I was, in elementary school, but in high school, we took ancient Egyptian content really seriously. And we're like, how did the ancient Egyptians build the pyramids and those kind of conversations? And one theory that we came up with is that they used animal skins. And this wasn't, something that we thought of. It was a theory that was presented using fibers from the earth, like trees, plants. But where are trees and plants growing in this like desert barren place, right? Where do you get animal skin when there's no animals? And so I didn't have the confidence at the time when I was in high school, but part of me was like, oh my God, people skin. Like if there's one thing that was in abundance, it was the slaves, right? There were tons of slaves. And well, who is going to be getting gobbled up here? Not the elite, right? The slaves. If there was an elite who was, the people, prized and didn't like them, then yeah, in that situation, they would eat the person. But like, we have a history as humanity of consuming each other and using each other's bodies for things like tools and clothing and rope and just anything that you would make with any um, animal. So in my dream life, because everything that I say is based on my real life and real dreams, all half remembered, half misunderstood, and I feel excited and also bizarre and just a real need to share my stories because you know what? Like, I never connected with psychics before. It's just been the last few years. And some of the stuff that they tell me or things that I catch on YouTube, whether it's true or not, I'm having the same thoughts come to me. So I want to share my information because I don't watch scary movies. And so it's powerful when somebody like myself is making statements about dreams that I'm having and connections that I'm making. And then you've got psychics and historians making their connections. Like, that's the power of story species, story medicine, is that we share a deep subconscious mind. We're all fragmented and divided out, but we do share a mastermind. And that's where programming comes in, rules of the mind, things that I'm very passionate about. So dialing it back to this focus on story species, story medicine. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to read to you. So if you have a copy of book 8, go and grab it. If you don't, that's okay. Um, but what else do I want to tell you? I want to tell you that what I'm about to say might be upsetting. Some of you who receive this information, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, whatever, but for what it's worth, just put ethics to the side. Forget about the fact that you're a human. Like a rabbit and a bear could never meet together in the forest to have a conversation about sustainability and how the ecosystem's going, right? But imagine a bear and a rabbit could zip off their skin suits so the rabbit in particular doesn't have to worry about getting gobbled up by the bear. And just imagine that they could meet as spirits and have a conversation. So in my dream life, that's basically what's going on. And when it comes to practicing discernment, I don't know how I know. I just know if something is um, alive. Like there's a presence, whether it's a ghost or a spirit or an ET that is cloaked itself or made itself invisible. I can't distinguish that. I just have an awareness. And ever since I removed categories, my communication has intensified. Now, when I say ETs, because I've moved away from categories, I still need to use a common language, right? So don't get hung up on categories and don't be afraid to alchemize categories because in truth, we're the ETs, folks. We're the ETs. You know, we were on this planet and then we got off this planet. Everybody always wants to blame things on the government or give credit to the government. And it's like, forget about the government. There's people out there who are intelligent, whether they're doing things that you consider ethically or not. People are doing things. People have gigantic acreage property available to them, right? You could hide a dinosaur in the foresty mountain. Like, there's possibilities out there and stories that we hear about Frankenstein, half man, half pig, half man, half tree. Well, you might say, prove it to me that those exist. Fucking prove to me that they don't exist. How about that? That's the question that we should be asking. Prove to me that it exists. Prove to me that I'm wrong. Why are we so committed to proving that we're right? Why don't we start proving ourselves wrong? Why don't we take a step back, let the truth reveal itself? So I'm getting passionate again because, you know, what is an ET, right? Even parts of our planet, the elementals, the earth, the air, the fire, the water. Can we categorize fire as an ET? I mean, once upon a time, the only fire available to us was lava, molten rock, and that's assuming you live near a volcano, right? Or lightning from the sky. Well, lightning from the sky, would that be considered extraterrestrial? So these conversations I find fascinating, and I have an honors degree in English literature, and I have a second degree in education. And so these themes, these greater themes, for me, I find really fascinating. And something I've learned: stories are not about the stories at all. They're not about the plot. The plot is there to drive you to the greater themes. And our logical mind, the conscious part of us, demands a beginning, a middle, and an end. So I'm very passionate. There's a lot of new followers, a big, big welcome to you, new followers. And that's why I wanted to spend a little extra time today introducing myself in honor of you. Thank you so much for following me. I really appreciate it, especially a week or so ago when somebody reported me for my content, which gave birth to the disclaimer. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I never want to take it for granted. I'm all about the soul tribe, you know. Like, I offer services, so I put it out there. FYI, I offer services. Check out my Buy Me a Coffee. But really, at heart, it's the soul tribe that I want to connect with you. So I'm your soul tribe too, right? Dragon Dream Star sibling over here. Okay, so let's forget about feelings and let's forget about ethics. Let's forget about the fact that we're human. We're spirits having a conversation right now, okay? Just to help have the conversation. And we're not going to go into super details either. But here's the thing. There's ETs visiting this planet. Where they come from, forget about that. We're not even talking about that. Just, they're coming to this planet in search of food. Plain and simple. No different than us foraging the land, the waters, in search of food. Great. What categorizes as food, right? Like on our planet, we find it that here in Canada, we find it socially appropriate to eat cows, pigs, chicken. We don't find it socially appropriate to eat frogs or snails or dogs or horses. Yet in other countries, that's very, very normal. Very normal. In fact, most of the world consumes an insect diet to get their protein. We're actually the minority here in North America with eating beef, like your traditional farm animals, beef, chicken, and pig, right? So, what do you do? And this is highlighted in, I think it's book 4, The Gnome King. What do you do when the new neighbors come to town and, they're having a barbecue and your dog has gone missing and holy fuck, your dog is on the neighbor's barbecue. And they genuinely, they thought it was a wild animal, just like a deer. Because here in Canada, moose, deer, right? And it turns out the new neighbors are not from here. So, like, what an awkward situation, right? So, folks who are not from here need to go to like Earth school or something like that. Like a lot of people call planet Earth school, like we're here to be in school, but actually we have a need to provide schooling to folks who are not from here for those exact kind of social situations. You might have somebody who they don't believe in suffering, do not believe in suffering, right? So predator mentality, yeah, there's always going to be those predators in nature that are like waging war. And that's a separate conversation. Why are they like that? Arguably, all of us were abused as a species, and that's where that's rooted in that behavior. But what do you do when you have, ET neighbor folk as your neighbors and you didn't know they were ETs and, you're trying to get along with them and you start talking about the lady down the street who basically is dying and she's been dying for the last 20 years and there's like scarcity with food and basically the quality of this lady's life is not good, and so the neighbors recommend killing her, euthanizing her. And it turns out that she's dying of cancer, she's in a lot of pain, and you talk to her about euthanizing, like maybe she didn't know that, and then she agrees to go forward, and then now she's dead by her own free will and choosing. And so you think, okay, like she's no longer suffering, this is a good thing. But then what about when the neighbors suggest to put her on the barbecue? She's deceased, right? She's a decent piece of meat. Well, because ethically we don't eat people here. Socially we don't do that, right? We complain about food shortages a lot. How many deer do we see on the side of the road? I drove from Canada all the way to Florida. I couldn't believe how much deer I saw on the side of the road. How many people in the States, in particular, along that highway that I drove, the interstate highway, how many people are hungry for food and how many people with their cars bonk, hit a deer, the deer's dead. Why are we not running to get that deer, harvesting it? That's beautiful meat. See what I mean? Like, and then we can get into a conversation about animal intelligence and why we pick and choose, but let's put that to the side. Let's get back to the ET folk. So you have ETs that come to this planet and, they're looking for community and whatnot, but some of them are specifically looking for food. That's the focus. So some of these ETs, they're like wild animals, right? So they come here and they hunt us, kidnap us, they take us back to their planets and whatnot, and they breed us. No different than collecting fish from the lake and then putting it in your pond at home. This is their way of knowing. It's nothing personal to you or me, because they're in search of meat. They don't care about your personality. They're very indifferent. When they look at you, you are a piece of meat. So just like a bear would look at a rabbit, this rabbit versus that rabbit, the bear doesn't give a fuck. All the bear knows is rabbit, meat. That's something I can eat that's going to sustain me. Done. Right? So those ETs are coming here. Okay. Then we have ETs who they come here and they eat meat intentionally. And when I say eat meat, I mean including us, the Homo sapiens sapiens. But they don't want to. But they do because they're in survival mode. So they have like controversial conversations about why are they eating people? People are an intelligent species. So I get it, like not me personally, but like the ETs, they have conversations with each other where they're butting heads, because some of them are like, well, this animal is more intelligent, so you shouldn't eat that animal. But then other ET species are going, we're the superior race. Who gives a fuck about the animals that we eat? They're meat. We need meat, so we're going to eat them. It doesn't matter if they're intelligent or not. So this group of ETs, I don't know what they're called, but like they're divided about this. And some of them are, like the ETs who are in survival mode, who come here and they hunt meat and they're a wild animal essentially. Those ones I can appreciate. But the ones who are intelligent and recognize that we're intelligent too, and they're choosing to eat us, how does that make you feel? Right? So some ETs who come here, they're interested in our plants and trees because the vegan essential proteins, amino acids, everything that we need in plants and trees, and mycelium in mushrooms, because the mushroom kingdom predates the plant and tree kingdom. So we don't need meat at all. And when it comes to composting, excuse me, I got the hiccups. When it comes to composting, this is where conversations get a bit interesting. So let's pretend that you and I are ETs, or I don't know what we are. We just are. And I have a planet and you have a planet. And every 500 years, it's like a seasonal rotation. Your planet is in abundance with plant, trees, everything. My planet is complete desert, dust, nothing is there, barren, right? And then 500 years later, tables have turned. 500 years later, tables have turned. So we awaken to each other and we're like, hey man, like we should help each other out, right? Like maybe I wasn't aware of your planet, you weren't aware of my planet. Let's work together. When my planet is barren, your planet provides for mine. When your planet is barren, my planet provides for you. Okay, great. Well, how do we like start this process, right? So the first thing you think is, well, plant seeds. Well, my planet is sand, barren dust. So in a situation like that, the best thing to do is literally feed the earth, feed the sand, compost, banana peels, apples. You might think bring a tree and then the tree will just default to apples falling from it, branches falling from it, leaves falling from it. All of this feeds the earth, but there's nothing to support the trees, right? So you got to feed the earth, feed the earth, feed the earth. Sunlight doesn't even matter. It's just feeding the earth in the darkness. And then at some point, there's enough organisms in the soil that bigger life can thrive and be supported. So where I'm going with this is, again, pretend you don't have feelings, pretend there's no such thing as ethics. Like, how many of you garden at home and you put banana peels in your garden? Or how many of you, potatoes in particular, you put it in a bucket and you grow your potatoes in the bucket, and what do you put at the bottom of? A fish. Because the fish is going to provide nutrients for all the soil in the bucket, right? And why do you do it in the bucket? Because you don't, it lowers the risks of animals, right? Digging up the fish and whatnot. um, Also, a lot of you who compost at home, you don't put meat in your compost or bones. Why? Because it attracts rats. Okay. But did you know that one of the best things for the earth is your flesh and blood? Right? So, ugh, everything organic, including us, is good for the earth. Okay. So, um, if I wanted to help you out, because, this 500-year cycle where my planet is now barren and your planet is all in abundance, like, how can you really help me out? Like, I would require a bunch of compost to feed my soil, but what about if I could get some flesh and bone, right? That would really help. And if on your planet people are dying anyways, why can't I have the dead bodies, right? And when I think about, like, our bodies, like all this genetically modified food that we eat, like, essentially we're becoming genetically modified as we consume the food. Are we even going to be good organic material for the earth, right? The story that I share, as often as I can, Marissa Peer, she did an experiment where she put all this non-perishable food, cookies and whatnot, cheeseburgers. Um, and when I say cheeseburgers, I mean like real cheeseburgers, but because there's so much preservatives, it's like, is it real food? Was the point to be made? And also the sugary food. And the point is, she put it all in this big toolbox for seriously 20 years. And 20 years after the fact, she opened up this box. It stunk. She almost threw up multiple times. And all the stuff practically looked the same. Some of it, like the cookies, they had faded in color. Everything else was practically the same, and there was no sign of mold. And that was the point that she was making. Because if she was promoting weight loss and healthy lifestyle, but I'm applying her example to my scenario here because she made a powerful point, and that's bacteria is absent. And that's why the food didn't break down. So if bacteria was there, then the food would have molded and it would have been like, gross and whatnot. But in a positive way, it would have been breaking down because the bacteria, right? But it wasn't breaking down. Some of it was, and that's why it was, it stunk and whatnot, because there were some natural organic ingredients, but most of it was not. So the point she was making was that bacteria eat shit, right? Bacteria eat shit. And bacteria were not eating the things inside of her toolbox. And that just hit me because it just hit me because I never thought about it before, but it also hit me because when I think about the ET agenda and these kind of stories, yeah, how helpful like if we feed the earth, the bacteria, essentially organic, wholesome material and things like shit, that means bacteria is happy and can thrive. That means the soil will thrive. But if we feed bacteria inorganic material and sugar and things that don't break down and plastic, well, then bacteria is not going to eat that. And if bacteria isn't eating that, then bacteria and the whole cycle that come with them, breaking down the food, composting, rejuvenation, none of that's going to happen. Bacteria are going to say, fuck you, I'm out of here. I'm bacteria. I eat shit and I'm not eating that. Wow. Wow. Like think about it. You're eating that and bacteria is not. Wow. Wow. So like these are the things that go through my mind, right? So let's get back to like blood and bones, okay? So let's say you and I are talking and you're like really committed to helping my planet and you're like, Gina, we're not sending dead bodies to your planet and that's final. And I'm like, darn, I was really hoping for those dead bodies. So now I'm trying to convince you to bring alive bodies. Alive bodies, maybe I've got a little area that actually I've grown some plants and trees, and since you won't give me any dead bodies, I'm wondering if you're open to some of the Homo sapien folk coming over here. But I have limited resources, and so I'm interested in women in particular. I don't even want men. I want women. Why? Because women bleed for days and they don't die. Women, when they have childbearing years, and when those years are over, it's not over. They actually keep bleeding, and eventually they go through menopause, and then finally they don't bleed anymore. But even though they're not bleeding anymore, if they're on my planet, then they're going to die on my planet, and their body becomes a gift to feed the earth, right? So on a biological level, females, and this part is part of our history. I talk about my dreams a lot, but this part is true. Females back in the day, and not that long ago, and still today, folks who are on the traditional side, they'll go out to the garden and they'll sit in the soil and menstruate. They don't just go anywhere and do this. They go to the garden because the soil loves the blood. And in the winter time, in anticipation for spring, people are starting their indoor gardening, right? Women, this is in history, put their menstrual blood on the seeds because the seeds, they love the blood. The blood provides nourishment. So you don't have to cut your arm and make yourself bleed. You don't have to wait for somebody to die and then collect their blood, or bury their body. What about if you just have women, and women, have their menstrual cycle, and then women, their menstrual cycle blood feeds the earth. And then, maybe we become a female planet and at some point we invite men over. I don't know. This is just all hypothetical. But it's these hypothetical questions and these hypothetical scenarios that bring us to the table. And I believe that we should come to the table and have fun throwing around ideas and putting on different hats, like putting the hat on of the bear and then putting the hat on of the rabbit, and shifting perspectives about how things are going to unfold, right? So there's always much to be said. Um, so in history, I don't know where I picked this up in my dream life, but I know in some movies they talk about sweetmeat, and it's like, what's with the sweetmeat? And a long time ago, like back in my childhood, I made a connection, and I didn't have the confidence to talk about it, and I didn't feel comfortable talking about it because people already didn't believe me about angels coming through my wall when I was 7 years old. So, um, there's, I'm just brain farting it out here. There's lots to be said. There's lots to be said. Um, and what I would like to do is actually read to you from book 8. Um, because instead of like explaining it, I thought I would just read it. So I'm going to read to you from book 8, written by yours truly, Gina Virginia Casella, and it's called Scary Dreams. But before I do that, why don't we just take a little break? I'll play my little promo video so you know how to book private with me. It's, I think, like 2 or 3 minutes long. If you need to go to the bathroom, go grab a drink of water. And if you have scary dreams with you, I'm going to start reading from page 31. I'm not going to read all of it, but I want to read it. And um, I would like to transform the Dragon Dreams book series into a movie series. I'd like to kick it off with book 8. So I'm going to be sharing, focusing on book 8 for the next little bit with Story Species, Story Medicine. And I did post on Buy Me a Coffee that I'm looking for folks to collaborate with. So if you have movie animation experience, please reach out. Let's do this, right? So here's a little commercial for you, and I'll be right
in progress.
Hey, Dragon Dreamers, Gina Virginia Casella here, your Dragon Star sibling and the one behind the Dragon Dreams Soul Tribe Collective. It is my fucking pleasure to assert that the Akashic records are not a permanent record because your past never defines you. It brings me great joy and honor empowering others to know only you can write and rewrite your story. In fact, it's your birthright to do so, to make edits accordingly. The master scribe and authority you are of your life. The best intended contract is an intention. You were never bound to anything, even if you wanted to be, as we exist in a constant state of alchemy. No more life living you. The pen is very much in your hand. Take charge of your story. Shed false limiting beliefs and the matrix holding you back. Make your story count. I hope you have the courage to be yourself and to be all you can be. I know it's not easy, and you're fucking worth it. Yes, you. You really can change your story to change your life. You're the biology and the belief in the biology of belief. Discover Gina Virginia Casella. I would love for you to join the free Facebook group, the Dragon Dream Soul Tribe Collective, and I would absolutely adore if you registered for one of my memberships. Dare to Dream. You can learn more, or you can go straight to the Buy Me a Coffee website and look under memberships. Keep dreaming those dreams, Dragon Dreamers. You are worth it.
That's right, Dragon Dreamers. You are worth it. You're enough. Things are available to you. You're the same as everyone else. You matter. Yes, you. Right there, you. Just put my finger up. You. You matter. You're important. People wait their whole fucking lives to hear stuff like that. It's true. All right. So I'm going to be reading from Dragon Dreams book series, book 8, Scary Dreams. I'm not going to read it all, but I'm going to be reading about 40 pages. Some of the stuff I might skip over. I wrote page numbers down. So I'm going to read page 31, 32, and then I'm going to jump ahead. So, and this is written by me, Gina Virginia Casella. And in the description, you can find my links to purchase my books on Amazon. And again, I want to transform this into a movie series. So let me know if you want to get in on that. Like, let me know now, because this is like what I want to do in 2026 is focusing on the movie series. Okay. Looshing, page 31. I am a spiritual young girl, and the other children remain unaware of my presence, yet they are enjoying their playtime as I am. Their ages range from 3 to 5, with one girl named Sophia appearing to be around 7. As a 3-year-old spirit, I have been in search of companionship. I typically play with the chipmunks and similar creatures. However, I have somehow found myself in this realm, and I have developed a fondness for these children. My ghostly nature leaves me indifferent to the concept of time, yet I comprehend the cycles of day and night. Although I do not witness the sunrise or sunset in my dream, I possess an awareness that these children are biological beings. I am certain their parents will return shortly, for despite my lack of understanding regarding time, I recognize that we have been engaged in play for a considerable duration. Additionally, I realize that these young children, due to their tender ages, require naps and nourishment, as they are too young to attend to their own needs. Reflecting on my experiences with the chipmunks, I find that I often take breaks, which is part of my existence. I find myself attempting to maintain a sense of composure and connection with these individuals, despite their complete unawareness of my presence. It is intriguing to note that although I exist in a spectral state, I didn't think anything odd about my relationship with these children. I wonder what I need to be nourished. Perhaps it is their joy, or possibly the essence of life itself. In this moment, I feel akin to the wind, yet I still require some form of sustenance. It may be that my spectral form is sustained while my physical body remains dormant. I might be experiencing an alternate state of being, perhaps akin to a dragon in slumber. All I need is to embrace the essence of a ghosty girl at the age of 3, representing another facet of my existence. Am I a loosher? Am I a loosher in this sense? Out of body form, going off to feed via absorption, type alchemy form. The world around me is where I'm feasting. Am I some kind of air filter, akin to a bottom feeder, or one of those fish that stay suctioned to the aquarium wall? So I wonder these things because I understand the biological children that I play with who have absolutely no idea about me. They eat food and require sustenance and things like naps. Me, I'm a ghosty girl. I don't need any of that. So I'm wondering, like, do I feed off of their joy? Is that ultimately the reason why I'm even hanging out with these kids? I'm eating their joy. So the story goes on. I'm going to go ahead now to page 52. All right, Going to page 52. So the Looshers come in, all hell breaks loose. The children are now dead. I tried to help out. This girl, Sophia, one of the older children, she jumped in front of the other children to protect them, and then I jumped inside of her body. And so now it's at the part of the story where the Looshers, they're basically the children are dead. The Looshers are now, their bodies are like fat suits, and they transform into one big fat suit body, and they absorb the children. You can read about it in the book. It's just for this purpose. I didn't want to tell that part of the story because the focus is on, for this episode of Story Species, Story Medicine, the need to have sustenance. So, and also like a predator mentality. So I'm on page 52. So, so like I said, I was inside of Sophia's body, and Sophia is now dead. So I'm still in her body, but I'm like in and out of her body because I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm not used to being in other people's bodies. And there's this one Loosher in particular that he's not with the other Looshers. He's off to the side sitting down, and I'm with him. He began to rub my legs with considerable pressure, yet I could sense his empathy. For a fleeting moment, he entertained the thought of him revitalizing Sophia with this squeezing massage action he was doing. But if he believed that by massaging her, he could somehow stimulate her to breathe once more, he didn't understand rigor mortis and was fascinated by her muscles. Come to think of it, I suppose folks like their meals fresh before rigor mortis sets in, so they would, in theory, consume their meals before observing such realities. An intriguing situation unfolded as he began to recall certain elements. Concepts such as bones, muscles, and organs came to mind, elements he lacked, as did the other intruders. They merely possessed a shape of these features appearing to have bones, muscles, and organs, yet they did not. Instead, they were merely fat forms, shaped and molded into a specific appearance. For a fleeting moment, there's a lot of fleeting moments in the Dragon Dreams book series. For a fleeting moment, I thought that he might attempt to violate me as he was squeezing at my buttocks and thighs. However, this was not the case, and he took special interest in my biceps, right? In my biceps and in my calves. And then squeezing my one forearm fascinated him because it caused my hand to move, because my body was connected, unlike his. Yet he was on the cusp of making such connections. His interest in my body seemed sincere, stemming from a vague recollection of bones that he was on the brink of grasping but could not fully remember. I sensed that if he were to make that connection, he might risk recalling everything, including the realization that he was under the influence of another. This individual, characterized by his brown eyes, blonde hair, and fair skin, once played the role of a big brother or perhaps a cousin or uncle. He understood the joy of making a young girl laugh and feel uplifted. His confusion became evident when he unexpectedly began to tickle me, as if I were his niece, momentarily forgetting the gravity of our circumstances. While he was aware of tickling, it was not something he could consciously grasp. He was intrigued by his own subconscious actions. This phenomenon was intriguing, as he noticed that when he applied pressure to my leg, my muscles would react, causing my foot to move, just like the situation with my hands. Additionally, he found the area of my ribs particularly captivating. It was as if he were on the cusp of recollecting the bones he once had, a body just like mine. Well, like Sophia's. At a deeper subconscious level, he began to connect the dots between ribs, bones, and the act of breathing, heart, the lungs, all working together, blood flow. He was recognizing these as essential elements he no longer possessed. Yet these realizations were not made consciously. It was unsettling, as he exhibited a nurturing demeanor reminiscent of a loving uncle or an older brother, while simultaneously harboring a more predatory side that seemed to delight in this experience of trying to tickle Sophia's body. Suddenly, their leader appeared. Upon his arrival, his presence was blatant. One could sense his energy without hearing a word. It was an intense, oppressive, and intimidating aura, as this leader was not one to be trifled with. He commanded authority, and any challenge to his control was swiftly dealt with. He reminded me of an intense version of Wesley Snipes. I'm at the top of page 55. When he entered the living room and noticed me, well, Sophia, his demeanor shifted dramatically. He began to ridicule the individual with blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair skin, suggesting that he was overly emotional and concerned about my well-being. Other intruders joined in the mockery. The man with blonde hair, brown eyes, and light skin attempted to laugh along. The leader and the other intruders not only mocked him, but also asserted that he did not belong with them, emphasizing that if he truly were one of them, he would be with them. I guess Sophia needed to be a certain deadness to be added, so that's also why there was a delay, and he was explaining this. It's hard to keep track of it all. Sophia's body at this point was officially declared deceased. Some individuals required the body to be officially recognized as deceased. Although Sophia had not yet been included in this context, she would be now. He was advocating for himself. That is why he was on the chair away from the others. He was truly left with no alternative but to join the others or face death. My recollection of the events was somewhat hazy, but I remember him rising from the chair from Sophia's body and with Sophia's body in his arms. The leader then unexpectedly struck him with a forceful backhand, causing him to collapse onto Sophia's lifeless body. While I observed the scene unfold, it was evident he was on the verge of tears, despite the fact that they had collectively taken the lives of Sophia and the others, children. I felt a deep sense of compassion for him. I'm at the top of 56. He did not deserve such a brutal treatment. Furthermore, I could sense the fear among the other intruders. They were clearly inclined to follow whatever commands the leader issued. The leader addressed the individual with blonde hair, brown eyes, and fair skin, stating that at this moment, he must consume the girl's body to demonstrate his worth. He was positioned on his stomach atop Sophia. I anticipated that his body would begin to expand or exhibit some transformation to align with the others. However, that did not occur. He was caught in a conflict involving his various aspects. Additionally, he was grappling with the fact that a tooth of his had gained autonomy and was now exerting control over him. Yes, tooth. Just one. The experience was quite unsettling. As a spectral figure, I observed the scene unfold before me, positioned so closely that my face was mere inches from his. My attention was drawn to his chin, which lifted slightly, revealing signs of exhaustion, likely a result of having been struck. It appeared he may have been momentarily unconscious, and it was the tooth that was making him raise his chin up like that. In that moment, it seemed as if he lacked control over his entire body. It was as if an external force had taken command, with the tooth assuming the dominant role. It was the right fang tooth. The tooth exhibited an almost sentient quality, operating with a deliberate intent. His expression remained stoic, yet the corner of his lip twitched in a particular manner, a movement so isolated that it was remarkable, even robotic. No other facial muscles engaged, only that single lip rose. The tooth itself resembled a typical canine. It appeared almost mechanical, as if it possessed a mechanical pull, driven by a greed for hunger, precisely targeting the skin. The tooth seemed to be angry and like a shark hungry for blood. This entire sequence transpired in a fraction of a second. The tooth seemed to orchestrate the opening of the lip, prompting a movement and tilting of the head to go forward, leading to a sudden wide open mouth. The tooth elongated, and I found myself in an optimal position to observe this transformation. I was captivated by the tooth, which took on a form of a 3D dimensional triangular cylinder, becoming thinner as it extended. It had a flat appearance, yet it was not truly flat. This brought to mind the image of leeches, which possess slender, delicate teeth. This tooth was like a needle tooth with its own autonomy. Suddenly, it felt as though the tooth had become a magnet to the skin. Upon breaching the surface, the tooth functioned like a straw siphoning Sophia's blood, but it was more than her blood. Like a spider, it seemed the tooth administered a chemical like a spider to transform the insides of their prey into a milkshake. And that's what the tooth did as it began to consume Sophia's milkshake insides. It embedded itself deeper into her neck, relentlessly drawing more. And I watched this. I was right there. And I watched Sophia's body deflate. Just like that. Like it was scary, dehydrated looking. I didn't mean to look. I didn't want to look. And neither did the intruder with the blonde hair, brown eyes, and fair skin. The individual involved, if you will, attempted to free himself, but found it impossible. Each effort only caused the tooth to penetrate further into Sophia. Eventually, it seemed as though the tooth had satisfied its thirst, having drained a significant amount of her body. In that moment, the man's striking brown eyes transformed, resembling those of a typical possessed being, with large dark pupils and a hint of redness. He appeared unwell, as if suffering from liver failure, with a yellowish hue to his eyes and complexion. Yet his eyes grew larger and darker, suggesting a state of euphoria, as if he were intoxicated from the milkshake he had consumed. There was a bit of a struggle, and it's like the tooth finally let go, and he stood up, and although I cannot recall his exact words, he expressed celebration in his voice, something akin to feeling invigorated and satisfied, suggesting a return to their previous activities. And this milkshake made him much stronger, yet this great strength would fade. If one were to keep consuming such milkshakes, then like any drug, they would require it to survive. And each time the drug fades, they need more drugs to get their fix. And they eventually die because the body can't function anymore. I don't really get it, but they die because the leader takes all their energy eventually. I'm at the top of 59. The leader somehow is able to feast and acquire his sustenance through his subordinates. So the leader doesn't have to be vulnerable in a fat blob form or engage in consuming milkshakes or even hunting. He used to do these things, but now he's a leader and others hunt for him and provide for him in this way, if you will. The strength of the leader is indeed alarming. It is unsettling to consider the the quantity of milkshakes he has consumed or the excessive energy he has absorbed to sustain his vitality. Equally alarming is his treatment of his subordinates, whom he sees to regard as easily replaceable. There is an unsettling notion that some form of grotesque experimentation is taking place. What is particularly troubling is the apparent lack of understanding among them, including their leader, regarding the true nature of the human body, especially its internal workings and connections. This ignorance is intriguing, especially given their reliance on milkshake consumption and energy absorption. It seems they have never considered the possibility of examining a human being. This leads to deeper inquiry. What constitutes a human? What does it mean to be a biological Homo sapiens sapien? It appears to be a relic of the past, a mere whisper of what once was. Their comprehension seems limited to simplistic forms akin to cookie cutter shapes. It is perplexing to ponder how beings with such a narrow perspective could grasp the complexities of anatomy, much like a spider would struggle to understand bones and organs through its own simplistic methods. These individuals seem to exist in a reality where they are oblivious to the fact that the cookie cutter shapes surrounding them are in fact biological entities with intricate structures, the very attributes they seem to desire. So I made a note here to stop reading at page 60, and now I'm going to go to just the bottom of 62. Those of you who are following, basically, the next few pages, the Looshers, they run off because sounds like there's more children, food source available, and they're all hyper and pumped up and they're just gone in a flash. And I'm like sitting there after this, just taking it in. And the Grim Reaper comes because he comes to collect the souls of the children. And I'm there and we start talking. So what I'm about to read now is the heart of the conversation. So if you're following along, I'm just at the bottom of page 62, the last paragraph there. And I'm going to be reading till the end, which is about page 80, 81. After this dream, I referred to these individuals as vampire-like beings. However, throughout the fall of 2024, I encountered the term looshing. That's Rosie's tale. Yes, she wants to catch the last of the chapter here. So I encountered the term looshing, which was unfamiliar to me at the time. Upon hearing it, I instinctively recognized it as the most fitting description for the entities in my dream. They're looshers. They were not vampires in the traditional sense of bloodsuckers. I recall in the dream feeling a profound sadness while seated on the floor. Rosie keeps bunking into me. Okay, Rosie. Uh, the So I'm sitting outside on the floor and I'm feeling sad and I'm bummed out. And as I sit there, I'm thinking about the children's parents and the rest of the neighborhood and just very concerned, right? And then it was then that I encountered the Grim Reaper, better known as the Cosmic Custodian. In one of my books, I have a heartfelt conversation with the Cosmic Custodian about the situation. I experienced a sense of inadequacy, as though I could have contributed more. The Cosmic Custodian clarified that by taking possession of Sophia's body, it provided her relief from enduring those traumatic experiences. I am grateful for that. It was significant in its own right. This act alone surpassed anything I could have achieved and exceeded the expectations others might have had of me. I was, after all, only a 3-year-old ghosty girl. Top of page 64. I assisted Sophia and she granted me permission to inhabit her body. However, I am left with a sense of unease regarding my actions. In retrospect, I question whether I could have approached the situation more strategically by entering the body of one of the intruders, or perhaps even their leader. Maybe I could embody the wind like they did. Perhaps I could be the roof and crumble onto them. Or I could be the rainbow and burn them. I have endless ideas that come to me. The Cosmic Custodian is shocked at my thinking. I'm yet inspired by it. It stems from the training I received from the chivalrous warrior. Suddenly, it dawns on me that perhaps I could embody the Cosmic Custodian and chase after those guys. His role was to collect souls after all, so I perceived him as stronger than their leader, but that's just it. Yes, the Cosmic Custodian is more powerful, yet those folks, he explains, don't have souls. He's already collected them, and/or the souls are missing. And that it's not his role to be the police or beat up the bad guys. For the Cosmic Custodian is also chivalrous, moreover, trusted in his role to come from a place of indifference. As many would like him to have, many would like to have his power. And for what it's worth, those bad guys, including their leader, were all good guys and continue to be. They're simply clouded by fear and in a state of toxicity. The Cosmic Custodian also ponders if I could embody him and says, I already do, because I am him. And for what it's worth, we're also Sophia and the children, along with those intruders and their leader, including you reading this. Yes, you. Following the experience of this dream, I contemplated in my waking life the moments I spent with the individual who had the mechanical tooth, blonde hair, brown eyes, and fair skin. And for a brief moment, I felt he might have detected my presence. He was aware of me, while the others remained oblivious. Otherwise, I would not have entertained such a thought. And this is where I find myself valuing my thoughts, particularly those that arise directly from the deeper subconscious mind. The initial intruder who took Sophia's life also sensed my presence, yet he did not trust his intuition, believing I was merely the body of Sophia making sounds. In that moment, he was indeed sensing me, He nearly turned back, but remained focused on joining the others. My mind was fulfilling its primary function, which was to protect me, completely shielding me from becoming entangled in these narratives. And now I face the truth, sharing with you. How long before those two in particular reflect on their experience of that day and admit to themselves that they sensed a ghosty girl? And at what point will they admit this to each other and others? This scares me. I have not envisioned these individuals in my dreams since, and frankly, I prefer it that way. My thoughts often drift to the intruders and the nature of their existence. Did they possess agency to choose their path, or were they manipulated? They must have been. Is there a possibility for them to revert to the original selves? What happens when you don't have a soul anymore? Can you get another one? It is indeed unsettling to consider the individuals they were before being overtaken by these identities. So, Dragon Dreamer, you are now familiar with the narrative, and I find myself wondering if anyone else comprehends the essence of what I am conveying. If so, I would appreciate any insights to fill in these gaps. What is particularly alarming is the impression I received that these fat bodysuits are not of natural origin. Rather, they appear to be artificially created, linked to the concept of conscious transfer and transmigration. This notion is somewhat beyond my current understanding, yet I am beginning to grasp it more clearly. These fat bodysuits are essentially programmed to take on the form resembling the two-legged biological rather than utilizing mechanical robots. Instead, a consciousness is inserted into these fat blob beings, which are characterized by their fat and skin. This technology is remarkably advanced, yet there remains a significant gap in awareness of the internal body among these individuals. The only exception seems to be the man with brown eyes, blonde hair, and fair skin who's just beginning to make connections regarding bones and organs. The rest of the group appears to be completely oblivious, and I've gathered that their leader is equally uninformed. So, page 67, this is now where the cosmic custodian really shifted my thinking in particular and really opened my um, openness to the predator mentality. The cosmic custodian lightens me. He says what's interesting is the leader knows all about bones and such. It's just forbidden knowledge. The leader is ancient and hasn't thought about bones and such in ages. It's not something that comes up often, and it's not on the forefront of his mind. So if bones and such came up, it would be the ultimate front page news, at least for them. And that's just it. The cosmic custodian addresses the cycle of predation, acknowledging its existence regardless of its origins. All species, including the cosmic custodian and myself, require sustenance. Therefore, the most practical approach for a biological is to embody the essence of a tree, nourishing oneself with its own fruit, which mirrors the interconnectedness of our vast universe. Yet, ironically, the situation also reflects a cycle of abuse that emphasizes hierarchy and fosters an us versus them mentality. It raises the question of who will bear the fruit and who will partake in it. This is precisely why we resonate so deeply with the concept of the life between lives and the notion of contracts. One must wonder what individuals are truly committing to. The most significant lesson derived from the life between lives is that there is no obligation to enter into any contract whatsoever. Moreover, you can edit or void the contract entirely. Top of 68. Society often pressures us into believing that we must adhere to this process, but we don't. And yep, you can read that again. You are not compelled to remain in this situation, even if you have made the choice to be present. Yet, why not make the best of it, living consciously and dying consciously, is what the cosmic custodian always comes back to. Reflecting on the implications of choice, it is unlikely that one would willingly, unless manipulated, put ourselves in these situations. Furthermore, you may find yourself continuously swayed by your own mind, which seeks to shield you with various misleading and restrictive beliefs. The environment surrounding us is filled with elements that are not natural, and the consumption of flesh has never been considered normal. Many individuals have engaged in this practice for an extended period, leading them to perceive it as customary. This reality is indeed quite alarming. Sophia and the children can be perceived as ripe fruit, available for the picking. However, the troubling aspect lies in the fact that these fruits are sentient, autonomous entities raising significant ethical considerations across all universes. The Looshers, I have to admit, were quick to kill the children, with the exception of me being trained. But even my training, as bizarre as it was, I wasn't suffering from it. In fact, I enjoyed it. So the part that I skipped over, and I've read it before the one guy killed me, he was very confused and whatnot. He was like trying to kill me, but also simultaneously training me to protect myself. And it was kind of freaky at first, but then I found like myself really enjoying this process. Like somehow he, um, put time on pause, suspended time, and we were in some other dimension, um, enjoying each other's company. And I aspire in my dream life to be like him. So the Grim Reaper and I were having a moment where it's like, you know what, the predators, even though they're predators, um, they weren't causing the children to suffer, right? And it was important that the children were deceased before they started consuming them. So, like the cosmic custodian, also known as the Grim Reaper, is helping me make these connections. Furthermore, in the distant past, our existence did not involve eating in the conventional sense. We absorbed nutrients through our skin and eliminated waste in a similar manner. Those were the times when we existed as simple microorganisms, as described by the cosmic custodian. The cosmic custodian and I engaged in a discussion regarding the implications of veganism and the boundaries of its definition. We explore the question of who has the authority to establish the criteria for what it means to be vegan. I was previously unaware, but he clarifies that certain plant species are deemed inedible due to sacred beliefs that are somewhat beyond my comprehension. It appears that these plants fall into the category akin to flesh. Additionally, I learned that some individuals restrict their diets to have a very limited selection of plants, believing that consuming or harvesting them constitutes as an act of abuse. For instance, they hold the view that fallen apples should remain on the ground for the tree's own sustenance, and thus, even in dire hunger, they refrain from eating the fruit. Historically, even when we absorb sustenance through our skin, we were still engaging in a form of exploitation of our environment, and the environment exploiting us. Was it symbiotic or was it exploitation? Where's the reciprocity? The us versus them mentality at heart as an internal conflict. As we began to question and challenge ourselves, we had a disharmony with our own aspects. We started to pick and choose the parts of ourselves that we liked, yet we needed to like and accept all the parts of ourselves. This caused disharmony between the genetics and the epigenetics, our inner world and our outer world, the 5% conscious mind and the 95% conscious mind. At a certain point, we engage in a discussion regarding symbiotic relationships. It can be contended that these two individual species, both whom exhibit abusive behaviors, have chosen to collaborate in pursuit of a harmonious existence. This was us back in the day. This is commendable as their interdependence alleviates their individual struggles. Moreover, it represents various communities linking up to get in on this harmony. However, one must question whether this symbiotic relationship effectively categorizes them as participants in a bullying buddy system. It is important to acknowledge that I gained significant insight from this contemplation, even experiencing a sense of disgust towards myself for deriving my own sustenance from joyful energy. If this energy is indeed joyful, should I refrain from partaking in it to allow others to benefit? Furthermore, who determines the allocation of this joyful energy? And who are the others in question? There is no difference than me placing myself in a joyful environment and absorbing energy than someone else picking an apple or putting their hand on your chest like a wraith to consume your energetic vitality, or a bear taking down a deer. I can appreciate the us versus them mentality, especially when children are involved, and this is all part of the cycle of abuse. Yet this mentality only seems to be a thing of intelligent species, where ignorance really is a bliss. And something that I forgot to mention earlier, I think I started talking about it, but when I started Story Species, Story Medicine today, I talked about sweet meat, but secret code language, sweet meat is code language for human meat, and the sweeter the meat, the younger the human. So it's just like, you know, um, red meat, beef, cow. If you want it to taste different, then you can try veal. Well, what is veal? Veal is baby cow. So instead of saying like baby people, they would just emphasize that the meat was sweet, and the sweeter it was, the younger the child, the younger the baby, even um, a fetus, like a pregnant mother, um, her body and the fetus being meat. And so as I'm reading Looshing in the Dragon Dreams book series, book 8, Scary Dreams, these are the connections that I make. And I'm wondering, what connections are you making? So I'm at the top of page 71. The Cosmic Custodian and I engage in a discussion about the vast garden to which we all belong. Essentially, in this garden, symbolizing our surrounding world, views us favorably. It will cater to our needs, as we are fundamentally the harvest that the garden reaps, all part of the greater alchemical process to which we are connected. So, like, the earth provides for us, but then someday when we die, assuming we're not cremated and we're buried, our blood, flesh, bones, that feeds the earth. Like, we are good food for the earth. And I'm noticing my technology keeps pausing. I feel like I keep having like hiccups or like I need to burp. I'm going to see this as a compliment to keep sharing and moving forward. So So the consciousness, like, is planet Earth, Pachamama, a predator? Is Pachamama a vampire? You know, Pachamama, the ultimate farmer, providing us with food, providing us with housing. All we have to do is live our lives, and then when we die, we feed Pachamama. So, like, it's just, um, I could talk all day about this kind of stuff, and I'm genuinely interested in what you have to say about it. Okay, so I'm on page 71. So, okay, so the garden, it may seem peculiar, but the garden also supports those. So the garden supports everybody, those who are undesirable and those who are desirable. And this raises the question of whether we can exert control over the garden or, by extension, the greater consciousness. So the idea is, if you can get the garden to like you, then, like, if the garden doesn't really like me because I keep, like, destroying it, but the garden really likes you because it's noticing that, you walk by, you smell the flowers, and by doing so, you're like a pollinator spreading things. The garden starts off indifferent to us, but, like, if we both walk by the same garden all the time, and all I do is, like, abuse it, and you're, like, enjoying the flowers, well, you know what's going to happen? The garden consciously knows who you are, and it knows who I am. And when I walk by, the flowers just kind of, they're just there. But when you walk by, the flowers, they open a little bit more to entice you to come on over, right? And so consciously, the garden is reaching out to you. And we can get into a conversation about the goddesses and nature spirits, and really it's them reaching out to you so we could have, like, a symbiotic relationship. I mean, all of my books, I feel like you just read a few pages and you could write essay after essay. Um, okay, so alternatively, garden may be in a state of self-destruction, which could explain the chaos we observe. It might be generating and nurturing its own afflictions, including these undesirable entities known as looshers. The loosher is an example of a manifestation of the mind's primary function, to protect. Consequently, the only genuine means of safeguarding oneself may involve entering the state of non-existence or slumber, yet this would lead to a stagnation if we didn't wake up, ultimately resulting in the universe discarding you for no longer being of service. Like any snakeskin, you'd be shed away. Yet, could we not continue to alchemize through our dreams, through our very illusions? And are we currently an illusion, including myself and the cosmic dystopian? But despite illusion, why not choose to live consciously and die consciously, is what is insisted. Moreover, what's so bad about being an illusion? I mean, wouldn't it be ideal to be the dream we're dreaming? Now, something that I didn't write in here is that there's some theories out there, and this is coming from my dreams, half remembered, half misunderstood, but there's some theories out there that there's ET species that are dying. So, biologically, for reasons that are beyond my understanding, they're not going to survive. It's like the hero's journey. They left and they can't come back. So the only hope for them is to integrate, to become a hybrid with us. So the goal is to be a hybrid. So then imagine you have, like, half apple, you're making apples and bananas a hybrid. So now you have, like, a hybrid banana apple. Okay, great. But then, like, over time, when the conditions are right, the long-term goal is to separate the bananas and apples again. But the manipulation is that one is like let's say the bananas are the ET species and they want to breed with the apples here on planet Earth. So the bananas integrate their DNA and become hybrids, and or they store the DNA inside the blood and bones, and then years later, they're inspired to get that information. But the point I'm making is that, like, when they resurface, if you will, who's to say that they're not going to wipe out the Homo sapiens sapiens? And who's to say that they're not going to maybe just keep a handful of us handy in a zoo or whatever, in case a situation arises again in the future, where they might have to be dependent on our biology for, a few generations go by or whatever, so that their biology can, like, this is all the stuff that I think about. So this is coming through here, in this literature through the Dragon Dreams book series. And also, a lot of us out there believe that the waking life is the dream life. So now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Okay, pray the Lord my soul to take, and then what? Like, come back later? Can you come back later? What about if the Lord doesn't take your soul? What about if you change your mind and you don't want to go to the Lord? What do you think about the cosmic custodian who's claiming that some souls are missing? What does the cosmic custodian think, feel, do, process information when you see someone like these Looshers and you've already collected their souls? So there's about 10 more pages left. I'll just zip through them. So where am I? I'm on 72. It is essential to consider the concept of co-dreaming, as it promotes us, it prompts many of us to reassess our companions in this shared experience. The turmoil we encounter both internally and externally may serve as nature's way of prompting this reevaluation, potentially leading to the exclusion of certain species, not mere individuals. What if those deemed undesirable were instead recognized as a valuable species? Imagine if they were granted access to a higher reality with the intent of consuming the remnants of humanity. Despite the intrinsic worth of human existence, such entities like the Looshers could potentially eradicate mankind, only to be subsequently eliminated by another species. This cycle could render Earth a pristine environment for new inhabitants. Alternatively, nature might unleash catastrophic events such as hurricanes, resulting in the extinction of all life forms. In this context, nature may require the intervention of walking trees, whether they be extraterrestrial beings or evolved humans, to facilitate a selective extermination, a literal, intentional weeding of the garden. This raises profound ethical questions regarding harassment and the broader legal implications of creation, as well as the responsibilities and accountabilities that come with being a creator. While we may not be directly responsible for the majority of our challenges, we are nonetheless tasked to overcoming them, which necessitates a transformation of self. This journey requires us to embrace impermanence and to recognize that the universe itself undergoes periods of rapid growth followed by slower phases. Just as a runner's heart rate fluctuates during a race, we must acknowledge that we cannot maintain an elevated state indefinitely. At this time, the universe is only just starting to pick up speed. So we must expect the rapid alchemical changes that come with it. If the universe were to enter a state of slumber, another universe would inevitably absorb us. So does this make universes the ultimate looshers? Indeed, universes also undergo alchemical transformations and consume one another. Cosmic custodians suggest that there are larger universes beyond our own, which one day will assimilate ours, and we call this merging, but really it's consuming. Thus, they, the ones who would someday consume us, are inclined to assist us in ensuring that we provide them with essential nutrients, just as we do for other universes smaller than ours. This situation parallels the role of bears in safeguarding their territory to ensure the survival of the rabbits upon which they rely. This dynamic is an integral aspect of the alchemical cycle, demonstrating how all universes engage in a continuous process of composition and decomposition. However, one must consider the implications of a scenario in which bears cease to no longer exist. While this may initially appear advantageous for the rabbits, the absence of bears signifies a lack of predators. This leads to a discussion on the interchangeable nature of the terms predator and protector, highlighting a dualistic perspective essential for comprehending the insights provided by the cosmic custodian. The cosmic custodian pauses to emphasize that he does not support violence or inappropriate behavior. His intention is to encourage me to broaden my perspective, as I am quite troubled by the incidents involving the looshers. It is crucial for the cosmic custodian that I do not harbor resentment towards them, as I and he are not superior to them. The situation of requiring sustenance is fundamentally the same, merely presented in a different context. And yes, the context is grotesque only because it's arguably unfamiliar. Should we consider familiarizing ourselves with looshers? Is it appropriate for us to collaborate with them? They are individuals enduring immense suffering due to their chemotherapy treatments, some of whom may be open to the idea of a loosher assisting them in ending their lives. In this context, looshers could assume a revered position with the community, contrasting sharply with the current practice of physicians administering lethal substances. The cosmic custodian reminds me that I have explored this theme in my previous works, where disruptive us versus them mentality ultimately complicates the narrative. I find it challenging to maintain coherence in my own storylines, as they tend to diverge significantly. The cosmic custodian suggests that this disorientation is part of my enchantment of becoming ensnared in our own illusions. We often lose ourselves in our thoughts, which require a process of refocusing through unfocusing, as everything we concentrate on is merely an illusion, much like the lines on a map that only exist because we imposed them. They get a lot of perspective. To recognize our greater unity, it appears essential to cultivate self-acceptance. However, many individuals struggle with self-love, resulting in a reciprocal lack of acceptance from the surrounding world. Consequently, we possess the ability to sustain ourselves through our self-esteem, yet often fail to do so. This highlights the critical importance of self-esteem, acknowledging the profound abuse our species has endured in a significant realization And it is important to remember that even the Looshers, including their ancient leader, have also faced severe mistreatment. Therefore, we must approach these discussions with compassion. The truth can be challenging to confront, and it is sensible to begin by acknowledging this difficulty as well as our own ignorance. The more we learn, the more we realize how little we truly know. Thus, our best course of action is to support one another and establish boundaries. Is it indeed unjust for the Looshers that they find themselves within Sophia's reality? And arguably, is it not equally unfair I am present there as well? Who am I to feed off of the children's joy? Am I taking away from another's presence who consumes joy? Was I joy hoarding? Furthermore, is it fair for the Looshers to remain unaware that Sophia's species holds the potential to greatly benefit and ultimately save the Loosher species? Would revealing this to the Looshers not be rooted in compassion? This raises questions about whether older species hold precedence over newer ones and who determines such hierarchies. I am truly impressed by the Cosmic Custodian's insights on these subjects, as he has evidently engaged in profound reflection and discussions with others. The role of the gatekeepers in the establishment of designated spaces is indeed essential. Furthermore, the topic of gatekeepers and boundaries is quite contentious, and the Cosmic Custodian reminds me that I have addressed this issue very well. And then this is where things get exciting now in me publishing. So what I'm about to say might sound conceited, I don't care, but it's in this book, book 5, it's reiterated that there's supposed to be a movie series, and that's also reiterated strongly in Sacred Phoenix Heart, that story species, story medicine coming together. This is precisely why I chose to publish these writings. It serves to prevent myself from becoming overwhelmed by repetitive thoughts. So before I published this story, it's like all I could think about. And I've reread it and reread it to myself, and I'm still like processing it. But publishing it and sharing it has helped. And I need to now receive. I need to receive your insights and perspectives and triggers of information and downloads that come when you listen to me read this. By sharing my reflections, I affirm that I have already explored these complex ideas. Having shorter stories would help me keep track of content with the chapter titles alone, but it's like the powers that may be might want to start providing smaller and more concise downloads. And if that's me, well, I guess it's gotta start somewhere, hence limited stories in this book. While I am open to revisiting my published works, the Cosmic Custodian advises me to concentrate on further publishing and enjoy listening to the insights offered by my readers. That's you folks, or listeners, okay? He humorously yet earnestly implores that readers or listeners alike refrain from asking me to clarify my thoughts or any information in my books. For those interested, the Cosmic Custodian is accessible to everyone, encouraging direct communication, although many may feel apprehensive about approaching him. He reassures that unless one's time has come, he will not claim one's soul, except in cases of suicide, which he states he will collect out of divine courtesy. However, it is concerning that he encounters an increasing number of empty vessels, a topic I have also previously addressed. I have written extensively on these matters. This marks my 8th book, and I still have more to share. I have a deep passion for writing and enjoy sharing the process of contemplation. However, it does not currently provide for my financial needs. Consequently, the cosmic custodian suggests that the title of this book, Scary Stories, is intended to be the first of my series that will generate sales and significantly enhance my new career. And as you can see, I ended up calling it Scary Dreams, not Scary Stories, Scary Dreams, because arguably the dream is the reality. It's not just a story, even though this is for entertainment purposes with the new disclaimer. As various psychics have indicated, my purpose is to offer valuable insight, and it appears that my book series, gemstone readings and programs, which I am dedicated to providing, have not yet yielded the desired results. It is this Dragon Dreams book series that is expected to succeed. All that other stuff is extra. It's stuff I do for me that I enjoy sharing with others. The job, however, is writing, because it gets folks thinking. Moreover, it gets them hoping and dreaming, and that's something all the universes need all the time. Hopes and dreams. Like any endeavor, we must take the initial steps to initiate progress. Initially, this book was meant to be fewer than 100 pages, possibly even under 80. It was intended to be a brief work, however, an abundance of ideas has emerged, and I accept this development, as tomorrow is never guaranteed. Cosmic Custodian informs me that individuals are willing to compensate me for reading their books, attending their conferences, and spending time with them to learn their mythologies. This engagement would allow me to offer my perspectives and draw inspiration for my own writings, ultimately fostering more symbiotic relationships in my life. He also claims that I do not lack intelligence, a notion I have grappled with alongside issues of low self-esteem. This struggle arises from my tendency to prioritize others over myself, which, while noble, creates an imbalance that leads me to feel unworthy. Those of you who have been following me know that I ended up in the special education classroom as a child. And even though I have all this academic training and experience behind me, I still struggle with a false inhibiting belief that I'm not intelligent, even though it's something that I've, worked on. It's better, but there's so many layers that me feeling like I'm stupid, it is something that haunts me in the back of my mind. And so it takes a lot of my conscious mind to say, fuck you, I don't think so. I'm intelligent. And that doubting voice, no, that's part of the mind reprogramming. Anyways, back to the book here. So consequently, this is what was interesting. Consequently, I often perceive myself as a spectral entity in my dreams, as I deny myself the experience of a tangible biological experience. So basically, the Grim Reaper points out to me that my self-esteem is so low on a subconscious level that I don't even give myself a body, a biological body. That in my dream life, I present myself as a ghosty girl, a spectral being. And I just, wow. And in my dream life, I've got a huge history of all kinds of past lives that, make sense why I feel like that. Wow, right? Like, I mean, this needs to be a movie. There's so much to say, right? Um, so Cosmic Custodian rejoices with laughter, which nourishes me. Um, yeah, so he's like laughing at me because he's telling it like it is. And it makes me laugh, and this like nourishes me like food. He emphasizes that I possess the ability to influence my surroundings to experience joy. I can make him laugh, which in turn nourishes me, fostering a symbiotic relationship, as he too derives sustenance from joy. Initially, Death was imbued with joy, prompting him to seek out joyful narratives that encompass death. He expresses that he is filled with joy in this moment, for the wise and well whale and orca elders heard my song long ago, and they continue to harmonize it for me. This is the reason why my life has unfolded as it has, leading me to my current position. There's just a few pages left here. I have come to understand my role as the unmaker, a realization that eluded me in my youth through the cosmic, though the cosmic custodian was aware of it. In fact, I was perceived as a rumor or a fairy tale, a theme I have also explored in another book. All of this is now coming to fruition, at least consciously, since everything exists in the now. And as always, there is much to convey. And the final reflection on my book series is that individuals will pay to gather around, allowing me to listen to their discussions about my work, read from it, and it will always be a pleasure for them to hear me read. I will establish a routine where I read passages that people vote on or request, and I find immense joy in this experience, as do they. The cosmic custodian senses my happiness and draws nourishment from it as it radiates from me, and I, in turn, draw sustenance from his joy as well. It is noteworthy that the significance of epigenetics is being emphasized, allowing me to engage with individuals from whom I can learn in my own joyful manner. So it basically just concludes that there are indeed entities that consume thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, elements that we typically do not classify as food. And then I remind people about the seagulls and the blue beings in the Dragon Dreams Oracle, arguably um, their egregores I created. I'm still figuring it out, but they gobble up all of your fear. And it's a symbiotic relationship. They gobble up their fear, they digest it, and then they give back to you fearlessness. The seagulls, they gobble up all of your pain, social, emotional, financial, any kind of pain that you're feeling. And then, they process it and then they give it back to you and they give you back pain free. So the final sentence here on page 81, lots of folks out there perceive the cosmic custodian as a monster, and we're reminded not to fear the reaper, or we would be fearing ourselves. So I feel excited. I have lots to say, and I feel excited about people getting together and discussing my content, and then inviting me to their committee meetings about my books and my content. And I'm excited to transform this into a movie series. Something else I was thinking about was book one. There's at the end of the book, there's stories about like me meeting Manus and the goddesses, and I feel like parts of book one and book 8 would be a really great place to start for the movie series. Oh. I always have so much to say. This is my own content, and I feel like every time I read it, there's just more and more things that come up, and I'm wondering what you have to say. So thank you so much, Dragon Dreamers, for listening to me today on Story Species, Story Medicine. Ideally, it's only supposed to be an hour, but since I'm the guest, I guess I get the luxury of getting overtime. So let me know your thoughts. I'd really love to hear them. Take care.